Welcome to the Economy Magazine. I'm Binyamin. Tjong-Alvares here to deliver you the news from the world economy. Coming up, IKEA upgrades from furniture to better shelters. And Ghana struggles to reintegrate women ostracized as witches. First, the headlines. 3 decades after seizing power in a military coup, Muhammadu Buhari became the first Nigerian to oust a president through the ballot box. Nigeria's first handover of power to a new political party since the end of military rule 16 years ago underlines the strength of its democratic process. General Buhari, who was particularly harsh on corruption in his previous tenure, will probably focus on transparency in the oil industry and its money flows. Given the lower oil price as well as the depleted access crude account, he's also likely to push for greater state financial discipline.
Because of our message of change, we will have a rebirth, we will have a rebuilding, and we will have a restoration of the dignity of the Nigerian.
The Common Market for Eastern and Southern Africa, COMESA, urged its member states to continue consolidating the free trade area across the region. Africa's largest trading bloc said it had resolved 385 out of 476, or about 80% of non-tariff barriers restricting trade. COMESA, at the closure of its 18th summit, appealed to its members to remove all non-tariff barriers. Intra-COMESA trade increased to $22.4 billion in 2014, nearly doubling from $12.7 billion in 2009.
I believe that we have achieved collective understanding about how to enhance value addition and diversification through strategies and instruments for integrating our economies and increasing our access to the global value chains.
Surveys of China's factory and services sectors showed stubborn weakness in the world's second biggest economy in March. 3 separate surveys showed Chinese companies shed jobs last month as they struggled with soft demand and deflationary pressures. The official Purchasing Managers Index released on Wednesday edged up to 50.1 in March from February's 49.9. China's economic growth is expected to slow further to around 7% this year, pressured by a property downturn, factory overcapacity, and high levels of local debt. But Chinese policymakers have signaled their readiness to curb a deflationary cycle, indicating more stimulus ahead. Japan's quarterly Tankan survey shows businesses plan to reduce capital investment in anticipation of deteriorating conditions. 83% of large manufacturers branded conditions as not so favorable or unfavorable, according to the central bank survey. Japanese businesses predict weak demand both at home and overseas, and higher costs for materials due to the weakening Japanese yen. The central bank has pumped tens of billions of dollars into the economy through asset purchases aimed at keeping interest rates low and stimulating inflation. But reflationary efforts have weakened the yen, driving up costs for imports of food, energy, and many industrial components and materials used by manufacturers.
Abenomics is making steady progress, and we will move forward with confidence.
IKEA, the Swedish furniture company renowned for its affordable furniture, teamed up with the United Nations to provide better shelters for refugees. And in good IKEA style, for shelters take about 4 to 8 hours to build. ITV News journalist Shelby Weiner reports.
Portable, easy-to-assemble furniture sets at especially good prices. This is the IKEA trademark. The Swedish furniture giant has some 315 stores worldwide, and its turnover is approaching 30 billion euros. On March 27th, the company faces a new challenge, providing the High Commissioner for UN Refugee 30,000 transitional shelters.
Here is a prototype of a flat-packed house. It is designed this way, like an IKEA bookshelf, to be easy to transport and to be easy to set up in the field.
These shelters are designed by Better Shelter, a non-profit business by the IKEA Foundation. Designed to accommodate 5 people, they are all equipped with a lamp and a solar panel. Their unit cost? Just over 1,000 euros.
It provides electricity to run a light indoors and also energy to your necessities. They are very, very lightweight, and they are durable. They provide insulation, and they fit right onto the frame. These can last up to 3 years.
Deliveries are expected to begin this summer, with 10,000 copies intended for refugees in Iraq. There are currently more than 50 million refugees in the world. The initiative is a drop of water of relief compared to the 50 million refugees in need.
And now for a look at the Iraqi economy in Financial Bazaar with I-24 News journalist Ayman Siksak. Ayman, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Binyamin.
So what is the story here with the Iraqi economy lately? Is it going any better?
Well, not if you ask the Iraqis themselves, and we'll get to that in a moment. But we have to start off by saying that the American University of Iraq recently held a 2-day panel discussing Iraq's economy. And one of the main concerns there, as per the Iraqi finance minister Hishyar Zabari, is the government itself. The Iraqi government is having huge trouble paying the ministers, paying off debt, and particularly what they're worried about is legislation when it comes to energy. It appears that there's no clear legislation. Even within Iraq, cities within Iraq have a hard time setting up a law of how to share oil revenue. So despite the fact that Iraq is extremely rich in oil and should be enjoying this revenue, there is inner conflict on how to share this, and they say legislation is key. And that's a very, very deep-rooted issue in Iraq, regardless of the economy.
Of course, instability is not helping at all. What is the situation like for people on the street, for the average Iraqi?
Well, for the average Iraqi, it seems that the situation is rather poor in all aspects. There recently was a telephone poll taken by Iraqis, just surveying what people think about various aspects of life, politics, and so on. With the economy, it seems that most Iraqis, over 80%, describe their situation as poor, which is very, very difficult to hear. It's a startling number, and particularly this is not surprising. In areas held by the Islamic State, the situation was extremely poor, and we're talking strictly economy. They're having trouble living on the income that's provided to them right now, and they feel as though oil revenues are not getting to the people.
So what plans does the Iraqi government have set in place, or do they have any plans?
Well, there is an ambitious plan. The Iraqi finance minister, who we've mentioned, wants to issue a $5 billion bond issue, an international bond issue, within the coming years. But Citibank and Deutsche Bank, who he's spoken to, did say that they're skeptical that Iraq might be able to pull this off, especially because no major rating agency has given Iraq any credit recently. So this will be hard to pull off. They do say, though, that if they tone it down a little bit and offer a $1 billion or a $2 billion international bond issue, this might work. But the finance minister is really pushing it.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of difficult to give it a credit rating considering the past couple of years, I mean, turbulent years for Iraq.
Very difficult to predict how the credit rating will, if it will remain stable.
Right. Well, thank you very much, Ayman Siksak, for giving us more information on Iraq.
Thank you, Binyamin.
Thanks for joining us. Hundreds of women accused of witchcraft have been living in deprived witches' camps in northern Ghana after being hounded from their homes. But with the government closing down the camps, the women must now be reintegrated back into their communities.
Accused of witchcraft, these women in northern Ghana were hounded from their homes. Blamed for droughts, fires or sickness, and facing mob justice, they were forced to live in so-called witches' camps. Hundreds lived in these deprived communities, some for as long as 30 or 40 years.
They threw us out of the community for no reason. They claimed we were witches, but we don't know what our crime was. And when it happens like that, when they accuse you, you aren't given the chance to take any of your possessions. You arrive at your new destination empty-handed.
Despite the isolation, poverty and lack of access to health and education, the camps did at least provide sanctuary. But in 2011, the Ghanaian government announced that they should be closed down. ActionAid and other groups have been working to reintegrate the women back into the community without putting them at risk of attack.
We intend to ensure that women's rights are protected. And the women we see here are the most vulnerable. We have over 600 women, widows, 70 years and above, poor, some with disabilities, and they are the ones accused of being witches.
This ceremony in December marked the closure of one camp. But in Ghana, the belief in witchcraft is widespread, particularly in the poorest areas, such as in the north, where up to 3/4 of adults are illiterate. And returning to communities where such beliefs still exist is difficult.
Even now, the organisations that are assisting us to relocate have to seek permission from our former neighbours to enable us to return home. In my case, my children have to seek permission from the new community I intend to be relocated in.
Most of the accused were widows, poor and living on the edge of society. Accusing them of witchcraft was an easy excuse for cruelty and also to take their property and possessions. As they go home, the women are not hoping for special treatment, just to be treated as human beings.
And now for Media Watch. Daniel Roth.
How's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Very, very excited, actually.
Yeah, really.
There's huge news coming from Tesla right now. They are releasing a flying car.
A flying car?
Yes, it's called the Tesla Fly.
The Tesla Fly.
FLY.
And it's obviously very fly to be in this flying car.
Yes.
In Canada.
Right now it can only go 6 feet off the ground, but they're hoping for 12 feet by next April 1st. No, this is it's
right.
April 1st. It's April Fool's Day. Of course, they don't have a flying car.
That was a Canadian joke.
This was a Canadian joke. This was we were worried that it would come off as cheesy or not very funny.
It was cheesy. Okay, go ahead.
It was. I don't know why anyone was worried that would come off as cheesy or not funny, but
what is there to say about Tesla? Just the same.
Well, actually, there's this interesting article profile on Elon Musk, founder of Tesla, who spent some time early on in his career, just out of school, eating for just $1 a day. He was trying to see if he could make it as an entrepreneur, and he could, and so he did, and here he is.
$1 a day.
Yeah, he was eating hot dogs and oranges.
Did he live 50 years ago or something? I mean, $1 a day. Can you eat off $1 a day? I mean, I don't know.
I'm sure they weren't the highest quality. In the U.S., he was doing this. It was for or just low quality oranges, low quality hot dogs.
He didn't live in Israel because cottage cheese is a lot more than $1.
Yes, without a doubt.
Okay. Okay, but it's interesting. But
it's interesting.
On to more important issues of the day.
Iran. This is, of course, the big story.
Yes, the big story in all the papers.
It's unfolding as we speak, and anywhere you look online, anywhere you look in the newspapers, anywhere you're looking on TV, this is the top story. This is the lead story.
It's been years and years and years and years and years, and this is the big day where they said they're going to reach an agreement.
Right.
There's no agreement.
This is the big. To be fair, this is the big day after they said they're going to reach an agreement, and there's not an agreement yet. The big things that we're looking for on the economy side of the map are what's coming out of Iran and what's going in, or should I say what's not coming out and what's not going in.
Right.
The sanctions that have been laid on Iran have stopped oil, by and large, from flowing out. And Iran says they would be ready in a few months to send out 1 million barrels a day if they had the opportunity
Which would,
to.
Of course, increase the global glut of oil, the overstock we already have.
Which oil's trading at something like $55 Brent crude and under $50 American oil.
Big shock to the world economy.
So that's on one side of things. That's what's not coming out. What's not going in is. There's 80 million people in Iran waiting for all of the products that the world is enjoying that they're not getting. Yeah. There's 80 million people waiting for jobs that used to be there. At its height in 2006, I think, $4.5 billion of trade was being done between France and Iran. Just as an example, there's billions of dollars that aren't finding their way through the Iranian
But
economy.
clearly, Iranian people are suffering. They're cut off to a large extent. They're not getting what they need. It seems like the supreme leader here is essentially in charge, saying, holding back the deal from happening.
Right, and there's, so we're stuck in this limbo right now. We're stuck in Switzerland, both mentally and physically. This, the talks are, again, unfolding right now. It's a question of who's going to give. It's not even clear if a nuclear deal is done, if Iran decides to agree on a nuclear deal, if all the sanctions will be lifted. Folks like Russia are saying, yeah, we'll lift the sanctions. That's what the West should do. And the U.S. is saying, well, not so fast. We have to look at all of the details on the table.
Right.
It's so. Even if this deal gets done, there's a lot of questions that remain.
We'll see if that actually happens or not and what will come out of it. Thank you very much, Daniel and Ross, for joining us.
Thank you.
That concludes our Economy Magazine, your daily source for economic and financial reports. I'm Binyamin Tjong-Alvares. Join us again to find out more about Iran.